Good
Yeah,
evening.
camera's not on.
Bear
Oh,
with
well,
me.
sorry.
Yep, there we go.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Just, just got in there. Okay, so yeah. So basically, I'm a new platform. Just been doing it for a couple of months. Trying to give notoriety to things that are not in mostly in entertainment that are not getting the looks. So Canadian battle rappers, Canadian music, uh, a lot of women battle rappers, hip hop and stuff like that. Mainly Canadian because in battle rap and stuff, there's not a lot of Canadian media, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
about everybody. So I'm like, somebody's got to give shine to us.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Got to do your thing and represent it. I hear that 100%.
all right, so why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are there.
All right. Well, so my name is 2Complex. I'm a rapper and a battler from South Wales, UK. Much like you've said about Canada, there isn't there isn't the biggest scene for battle rap and hip hop out coming out of Wales. Uh, you guys will hear a lot of stuff coming out of Birmingham, London way, all the main capital cities in England, but Wales
Yeah,
itself doesn't get much of a look out.
true. That
So
is true.
I've been doing my thing now for on and off a good 20 years. I started in my late teens, back at the end of the 90s and the 20s, got involved with rapping and battle rapping then. Started doing shows, started doing support slots for some local acts around Cardiff and the main areas in Wales there. Fell out of the scene for a long, long time and life got in the way and took over as it does. And
Yeah.
it's just recently really been these last 2 years I've sort of found my way back to the hip hop scene, back to the battle scene, and really developing a passion for it, pushing back on and just trying to do my thing right now.
Okay, so you're um so where, like, do you battle out of Wales or do you have to go to like London or something like that?
Yeah, well, most of the battle scene is happening outside of Wales. There isn't much. Again, like I say, there isn't much kicking off. There used to be a Welsh league a little while back, just before I started up again. That's not happening now. So
Um,
the main things in the UK really are happening through Don't Flop and Premier Battles. Premier Battles based in Manchester.
yeah.
Don't Flop is coming out of London, but they do get around the country. They do a bit by Bristol, which isn't a million miles away from where I'm at right now. But
Okay.
I do an awful lot of my battling online, various platforms, Discord, a couple of rap apps, YouTube, things like that. And
Okay.
I've been trying to really expand that. One of the things I'm really into doing at the minute now is trying to battle people from as many different countries as possible. And over the last 2 years now, I've managed to catch scalps from 38 countries
Okay.
as a little side project, and I'm trying to battle somebody from every state in the US as well. So far, I've got 13 down out of the 50 main states there as well. So yeah,
Wow.
just trying to expand, do my thing, both online, both in the flesh. Of course, on the flesh, battles haven't been happening so much because of this whole COVID situation.
Right.
Really tough for everybody, really tough for the whole entertainment scene generally, never mind battling and for hip hop gigs. But yeah, just keen to get back out there and just keep doing it, keep flexing it.
So have you battled for Dope Flop or Premiere yet, or?
So Premier, I'm waiting to have some tryouts for. Bison as invited me to do that once things start getting up and running there with the events. I have just been online with a Don't Flop tournament, Think Twice video tournament that they were
Oh
doing
yeah.
on. So just had a couple of battles on that. So I've just got knocked out of that, to be fair.
Um,
Uh, but my next battle I've lined up is on YouTube. That'll be dropping on New Year's Day, and that's going to be YouTube based. Three 1 minute rounds. Looking
okay.
forward to that. That's the next battle on the cards for me.
All right, that's good. So what would you um what would you say is like your best battle, like if you wanted to show somebody this is what I do, this is what I'll bring, what would be the battle that you would suggest that we check out?
Well, on my YouTube page, which you can get to if you look for the original 2Complex, that's with a two.
Okay.
I've got a battle on there which was a virtual one again against a guy from America called Haddon Boy. He's a pretty good battler in his own right, and I basically had to set up a little video effort for that. So that was a pretty hot battle, one that I really enjoyed doing. In fact, I actually set up a little Peppa Pig effigy down down in the field sheds, and I took myself and I rapped direct at that Peppa Pig.
Oh,
Used He's an overweight chap, so I used a lot of lines that pertain to that and to his weight, a lot of personal digs like that.
mm,
And that was a pretty fun one to do. A tough battler, a guy who really knows what he's doing, and I came at that in a very, very different style. I consider myself to be the gentleman rapper. I'm not always dressed up in hoodies and caps and all the rest of it. I live out in
okay.
the countryside, so I'm quite often wearing my tweeds and my check shirts and my flat cap, and I'm happy to get on and bust it like that. And again, show that little niche. I come through with this Dick Dastardly mustache, Salvador Dali style on the go.
Nice.
Um, I know that my opponents are going to pick on that. You give them something obvious to pick on, you know that you can then pick apart what they're going to hit up and
Yeah.
rebuttal some of that obvious stuff coming your way as well. So carving out a little niche, trying to be a little bit unique in that respect. But by the same token, I'm hoping that that gives me an in to get some clever bars and some clever rebuttals in what I do.
Okay. And what would you say is your battle style? Like,
I can be pretty wordy and pretty verbose,
okay.
and I'm pretty rapid with it as well. When I first started battling, the scene was very different. It was a little bit before 8 Mile and all that came on the scene. So I'm an a cappella batter primarily.
Okay.
And I've got I utilize a lot of multi-syllabic rhymes. I use rhyme patterns within rhyme patterns. I'll lead up to long punches, and I'll try and throw as many insults and disses in as I can as well. A lot of wordplay, a lot of simile and metaphor, all the things that really you need to tick the boxes off in the science of battle rap, as it were. And
Yeah.
then my aim is to take that science, add that flair to it, so that it becomes an art out of that science. To be a successful battle rapper, I think you really need to tick certain boxes. You need to deliver certain ways. You need to deliver certain things, and that's the science aspect. Turning it into the art is how you add your flair to it, and then how you go about it, and the sportsmanship involved, and how you can say the most disgusting, offensive, awful things to your opponent, and hopefully at the end of the day you can still shake hands and have a beer or a smoke over that as well. Is the
Yeah.
sportsmanship element of it. So I consider battle rap to be a blend of science, art, and sport, and I
Like
hope
that.
that I bring something that ticks all those boxes.
Okay. And you said that you do you still do music, or is it mostly battles, or
No, much more so now getting into my music. Primarily, it was battles for a long, long time. Used to do a little bit of music. Had the odd hip hop track here and there. Got a little bit of radio play back in the early noughties. Did a couple of sets, a couple of support gigs for some British acts, Mark B and Blade, Jest. Did a couple of support slots for them back in 1999, 2000.
okay.
Uh, and recently, with this resurgence in what I'm doing, I've started to hone my craft of songwriting a little bit more now and develop a lot more tracks. And that's something that I'm really, really enjoying doing. Again, I'm trying to come at it from that slightly different angle. I don't want to be run of the mill. I don't want to be rapping about the same things that we're all hearing day in, day out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to bring,
definitely.
again, my own little bit of difference to that. As I say, I live in the country, so I try and reflect some of those angles. I'm not really running the streets and the roads no more like when I was younger.
Yeah.
I consider the streets and the roads not to be a destination, but they're a path on your way to a destination. And I've been very blessed in my life to get to a good destination where I'm at now. So yeah, the streets and the roads and all that hustle was part of my life back in the day. Now I've moved on to that, and I try and bring a lot of conscious rap into what I'm doing now, as well as still mixing it up with a little bit of the street sound. So I will do boom bap, I will do hip hop. I love the grime sound that we've got here in the UK, so I do that. Don't get too much into into the drill. That's not something that I'm involved in too
Yeah.
much. Used to do a lot of MCing for the drum and bass and the garage sets back in the day as well, where grime really birthed itself from. So I do a little touch of that from time to time as well. So yeah, just thoroughly enjoying expanding my art, releasing that creativeness, and yeah, just trying to broaden horizons and get out to as many different people as possible with something that's not necessarily going to be considered conventional. I don't see writing hip hop as being formulaic. These days I get that impression that a lot of MCs are in it for writing a 16 bar set with a pre-hook, then a hook,
Yeah.
and you're getting a 2.5 minute, 3 minute tracks tops that's not really saying a lot about, except from busting guns or talking about road life. And I'm trying to move on from that. I'm influenced a lot by a lot of American artists who rapped consciously. Pharaoh Monch I consider to be probably the best MC that has ever walked the face of this planet. I'm a
Okay.
big fan of the whole raucous, I call them the Holy Trinity, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Common as well. So all these guys that talk about important, relevant things, I love them. But by the same token, I love the rawness of the likes of the Wu-Tang Clan. I love the smoked outside sounds of Cypress Hill. Um, bit of West Coast, a bit of Snoop Dogg. I like a bit of everything really, and I've drawn little elements of all of that and keep this Welsh influence. The accent, as you can see, is quite tangible, something that's very different and probably not what a lot of people have heard. And hopefully a little bit of that individuality comes out in the work that I'm putting out there right now.
So where you're from and everything like that, how did you get into hip hop and stuff? As it, you know, it's not really known for the hip hop scene. So like, how did you get into hip hop and get started?
Yeah, so I was at high school, and at that right age where I'd started smoking, started partying, and going out, things like that. So what was getting played at that time was a lot of things like Cypress Hill, um, and then gradually we moved on to the Wu Tang. I remember a good friend of mine, Callum Fisher, at school. He came in and he brought me some bootleg tapes of all the original Wu Tang stuff, 36
Okay.
Chambers, T-Cal, Only Built for Cuban Links, all those. And as soon as I started listening to them, that was it. I was hooked. I'd always been pretty good with my words and creative writing. And it seemed like a natural outlet to develop that into poetry and then turn that poetry into something that could be put to music. So yeah, I sort of ahead of the curve in the UK in that respect, listening to all that. And as I say, that influenced me. I've got to say that I've got to give a shout out to Eminem, I suppose. I was doing my thing a little bit before he came popular,
Yeah.
but his popularity, his emergence on the scene made it very much easier for a white rapper to get noticed and to be taken a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And in the UK, that started happening. And the same time I was doing that, you had a lot of fantastic UK acts coming out. Like I said, Jess, Task Force, Chester P, Skinny Man, a lot of the guys like that doing their own British take on things. And with a well-known DJ on BBC Radio 1 at the time, Tim Westwood, he
Yeah.
was a huge advocate of British hip hop, and I remember being on the radio with him a couple of times doing things back in the day, and that was just a push, and I just found an absolute passion for it. The ability to be able to take words, craft them, to tell stories through the medium of linguistics and lyricism was something that just appealed, and I've got to be not trying to blow my own trumpet, but it came fairly naturally to me,
Yeah.
and just loved it ever since then.
Okay. So do you like right now have, other than the trying to battle with the 50 states and whatever, what, like, do you have specific goals that you're trying to do? Like, are you like, or is this just a hobby? This is just or is this just a passion that you're just taking what comes?
Yeah, again, well, I guess it started back up as a passion, a little bit of a hobby, just having to dabble back into it.
Mhm.
And as I've been doing that, and I've been fairly well received lots of good comments from people, and that has pushed me to work a little bit harder and take it a bit more seriously. I don't kid myself. I mean, I'm 40 now. I know it's going to be particularly hard to now make an impact on the scene.
Mm.
You need to generate a fan base. Yes, a lot of our favorite rappers out there now are in their late 40s, they're in their 50s, even guys like Chuck D and Public Enemy, they're now, they're now 60 odd. But of
Yeah.
course, they started a long time ago and built that fan base up earlier. But yeah, I would absolutely dearly love to be able to turn this into something that I can get going back out, doing a few gigs, dropping a few CDs, doing a little bit on the battle scene, keeping my toes in it, keeping interested, and hopefully showing other people that it doesn't matter where you come from,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter how old you are, what your background is, you don't need to conform to stereotypes to be involved in this hip-hop thing. Hip-hop is a language that expands and crosses barriers throughout. And just to be involved in that even now, something I absolutely love.
So, do you have like any dream like matches, or even if not dream or hit lists that are possible? Like, do you have, a list of like who you'd like to battle or anything like that? Most rappers have their, their,
Ooh.
if I could have a chance to, I'd love to battle this person or that. Do you have your people that you would love to?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, should a chance ever prevail to do something like that, then of course I'd love to go up against some of the biggest names in the game, both from the UK and the US. So UK wise, you're talking about some of my idols. There would be Shotty Horror, Shuffle T, who I think is an absolutely tremendous talent,
Yeah,
and he again shows the diversity of what can be done with hip hop and not conforming to stereotypes.
definitely,
If
definitely.
we're looking at the US guys, if we're looking at the US guy, the Real Sikh, I think he's fantastic. That guy's blown my mind in what I've seen
I'm
so
telling
far.
people
Um,
he's I sent him a message on Twitter and I'm like he embodies what I want battle rap to be like, where you're still actually rapping. You're not just going from punchline to punchline. No, you're
yes,
still actually
yeah,
rapping.
yeah.
So I like that. I like him too.
Absolutely, and that's why I like that's why I'm really into that guy. I mean, yeah, you've got other guys like he battled like Chile, you got Sue Surf, any of them. At the end of the day, if I had an opportunity to clash with anybody from over that way, it's got a bit of a name for himself, and that's
Yeah,
something I'd love to do. But I think more so right now, I'm more keen on really building a track portfolio, and what I'd love to do is just get to work and just do little slots with a couple of artists that I really admire. As I say, I cross genres. I do hip hop, I do grime. So if I could ever get a chance to work again with some of the MCs that I've listened to all my life, people like Pharaoh Monch, people like Task Force, like Chester P, um, any of the Wu Tang. Oh my God, that'd be a dream come true for anybody that's into
yeah,
hip hop. I mean, yeah, I mean, a guy from Britain, a guy from Brighton called Ocean Wisdom managed to do a track with Method Man a little while back, and I'm sure that was a dream come true for him. And in fact, I went to the Method Man Redman show down at London Brixton a couple of
yeah.
years back, and Ocean Wisdom was the support act there. So that was a hell of a gig, and I think that's where that opportunity arose. He was supporting him at that. The guys got a mutual understanding and
Yeah.
friendship together, and ended up jumping on a track. I'd love to get on a track with some of the grime lords. Get is one of my favorite grime MCs. Chip, any of those guys. Now, yeah, you know what? That's a dream. I honestly, can I foresee that happening? Well, I'm not going to kid myself and say, yeah, that's round the corner, because are those guys going to notice me? Probably not. But you know what? We can all dream, we can all hope. And if
And
yeah,
you're actually doing it, especially during the quarantine time, pushing your YouTube stuff. Like I've been telling a lot of the newer rappers and stuff, like especially the URL rappers, all of their battles are going on the app or on caffeine. So if you're a fan that doesn't have the app, like there's a whole bunch of people who don't know how good B Dot and Chilla's year were because all of their battles are on the app. So if you just use YouTube, so I'm like, I've told a bunch of them like, you guys need to get onto YouTube and get onto Twitch, and if your battles are not going to be available, then you need to be available so they know that you're still. So like once you like what you're doing, once you start building the audience, you start building the audience that makes people talk about you, and then everybody else has to battle rap is a sheep type game. So once you get the right people talking about you, everybody else just follows along. So
Yeah, but I mean, I hear your point absolutely, and you need to now try and expand across as many platforms and be as visible as possible. But by the same token, I wonder if that isn't down to some of the internal politics of those particular leagues that guys are battling in.
yeah,
Are they being requested that they don't share their battles on channels outside of the ones they're performing those for?
probably,
Is that
yeah.
is that part of the terms and conditions
Yeah, they're
of
probably not
what they're
allowed to, but
doing?
then
You know?
that's when they have to do tracks or freestyles or
Yeah.
talk trash, do something online so we see that you're still alive.
Well, that's it, and that's a big change for me from what I was doing at the turn of the millennium. Back then, of course, we weren't all about YouTube. My battles weren't recorded there. My battles weren't uploaded anywhere.
Yeah,
The tracks that I did were on thing were distributed via the likes of MSN, Napster, and
yeah,
Briefcase, and all that stuff back in the day.
yeah,
And I wish I still had the computer hard drives full of all that stuff as well. So this has been a learning curve for me, as you say, within this COVID period, learning how to expand myself, how to get that reach across multiple channels, how to, as an artist doing things on his own without any management, how to manage multiple social media platforms,
yeah,
and how you interact with your fan base and how you stimulate a fan base through those methods as well. So it's been a very steep learning curve, but one that I think you have to acknowledge needs to be done these days.
yeah,
I in particular need to do more with my YouTube. I haven't focused up as much on that these days. Now it's all about the visuals. The fans want something to watch as well as listen to.
listen to
So,
it.
it's pretty easy to put a track up on there and just have a sort of audio visualizer running with some waves on it,
Mm,
etc. And that's all right if you've got somebody who's dedicated and wants to listen to what you're doing. But you need to really be thinking about capturing the audience. So one of the next steps for me now has got to be getting some videos created and getting that visual aspect banging.
okay, so you said that you do like rap and grime. Other than hip hop or even urban music, what other music are you into? Like, what other influences? What other things? Like what other genres?
Yeah, I'd say I've got a pretty eclectic taste. I like bits and pieces of just about everything. Um, if I'm truthful about the one genre of music that I'm not really that keen on is probably country and western music. Aside from that,
Mm,
um, well, oh, K-pop, I can't say that tickles my bow tie. That's a new thing as well.
yeah,
But aside from that, little influences again from all of it. So we go back as far as the Beatles and that pop rock sound, and we
yeah,
bring rock right through to the current day with the likes of the Arctic Monkeys. Absolutely love them. You've got certain pop R&B type acts, the likes of The Weeknd, doing fantastic stuff, and I see him as a sort of evolution of what Michael Jackson was doing. So we've got all those influences from there coming through. Um, there's something to be taken from just about everything if you listen to it and you keep your mind open to it. Now, you might not necessarily, it might not be your bag, it might not be your genre, but what I've always said as an MC, as a hip hop head, as a songwriter, is that you need to be open to different avenues and channels, and the
definitely.
more you step outside that box in what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, what that does is feed into the brain, and it gives you stimulus. It makes you start thinking about different ideas, different directions you can take what you're doing. So,
Mhm.
although you may not be a Taylor Swift fan, you could
Yeah,
listen to some of her music, and some of those ideas could set forth a train of thought within your own thinking to
definitely.
lead on to something else that you want to develop. So I would never say that I've closed my mind to anything. I like little bits and pieces of everything. Although yes, my main love is as you said, urban music or music of black origins. Yeah, I like little bits and pieces of everything. I think some of my favorite artists, well, I'm from Wales, so I've got to give a big shout out to Tom Jones. One of my AKAs is the Tom Jones of the Rack Big Aim, because I've been dropping stuff ever since the 90s, the noughties, the 10s, the 20s. So that's 4 decades now
Nice.
of
Yeah.
dropping music. I've got a few more to catch up on him. Sting, I think, is a fantastic
Definitely.
songwriter.
Yeah.
So yeah, open your mind to different things, and you just don't know where that's going to lead you.
Okay. So true. That's true there. What would you think? Either in doing music or battling, which one takes precedent, or which one do you
Ooh,
think is the more?
I think had that question been asked of me 18 months ago, a year ago. I mean, over the last 2 years now, since I've been back doing it, I've done, and I keep records of these things. I've done 132 battles across all the various platforms. I've lost 14 of them. So I'd say my hit rate, my success rate is pretty
Damn,
good.
that's a very good
So I would
record.
say there is a real passion to battling. But what I have noticed, and I touched on it earlier a little bit about the politicism of some of the leagues, etc., what
Mhm.
I'm starting to see and comprehend is a sort of sanitization of battle rap. Um, Really, it used to be the case of anything goes, and the whole attempt was to be as nasty, as hurtful, as spiteful, as derogatory as you could
Yeah,
possibly be to your opponent. Pretty much anything went, short of blatant racism. Um, yeah, and I'm starting to see that being questioned now. We're becoming a bit of a cancel culture. People are becoming a lot more sensitive to
mm,
things like misogyny, homophobia, etc.
yeah,
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not on board with misogyny or homophobia,
yeah,
but would I use aspects of that in my battles? Hell yeah.
yeah,
I want to be controversial. I want to cause an upset to my opponent. If that means I've got to call him a name that's not brilliant, then that's part of my angle. If I can get under his skin and upset him with that, then that is the tactics to it.
yeah,
But what I'm finding is that's becoming a lot less acceptable in battle rap now. And it's very, very difficult to determine where those lines are being drawn and what is actually accepted. There seems to be an unwritten set of rules, and it's very difficult to get any clarity on what that is. It's becoming a lot more subjective. It depends who your judges are, whether they're on board with the older style of battle rapping, where you could say what the hell you liked, and you could talk about murdering somebody's family.
yeah,
Again, I'm not, I don't want to murder anybody's family, but if I can put that into lyrics and get under your skin doing that and put you on the back foot, then I don't shy away from saying that.
mhm,
So I would have to say I'm probably starting to err more on the side of song creativity. It's given me more of an opportunity to tell a story. I love to tell a story. I'm a bit of a raconteur. And if I can do that, a lot of the feedback I get is that my music seems to be very vivid in its imagery. I tend to be able to portray a very good story through the use of my words and my lyrics. And I very much enjoy the feedback I get with regards to that. So I would say a lot more of my music recently has been down that route, and I am probably deriving a little bit more satisfaction from doing that
mm,
than trying to gauge and trying to sit on that razor's edge of arrogance and acceptability in the battle rap culture.
yeah. That's true because I've always felt like it also depends on who's doing the line. Like people will accept a disrespectful line from Arsenal more
Yeah,
than they will accept it from somebody else, just
yeah,
because Arsenal's known for it.
yeah,
You're going there to hear how disrespectful he is. So if he
yeah,
does the
yeah.
line,
And I've seen that over recent months in recent months in recent events, that very same sort of thing in action. Yeah. And I think that's a shame. I think that's a crying shame that should be the case. A certain artist will get, exactly as you say, be able to get away with saying something that I might not be able to, because I might
Yeah.
be new on the scene, so they might expect something different. I'm not known for being controversial in that
Yeah.
way. So to hear it coming from me, somebody that you're not already on board with, not really a fan of, not really used to hearing that level of disrespect from,
Yeah.
is very, very difficult. And I don't think that that's particularly fair. I think, again, the rap fate, the battle game is becoming very cliquey.
Yeah.
If you fit in with a certain set of people, and you do the right things, play the right games with them, then you're going to get on particularly well. If you're stepping outside of that remit, outside that sort of box of parameters, then you're going to find life very tough for you in the established leagues that we have at the minute.
Definitely. I agree with that there. Um, what would be your favorite track of yours?
So I've just recently dropped. Now I'm not much into production. That's something else I've had to start learning to doing.
Mm.
So my production levels aren't great, but that's something I've been building on in the last couple of years now. And recently, I've got to say, as I've gone on, it seems like every last track that I've done has become my most favorite, because I think I've grown and improved that little bit, both in
That's
terms
good.
of what I'm delivering
Hmm.
and how I'm putting that together. Um, I think two of the last tracks that I've dropped most recently, there's one called African Roots, which is not quite what you'd expect. It's all about the ascent of man from Neanderthal days, talking about how we developed as a a hominid species, and how, as the continent and the earth changed, we all moved about. And yeah, and then it talks back, and it takes its way right through that story back to the decline of man, how we all started as one, well, one species, and because of the diaspora of humankind over the plateau of the continents as they've moved,
Yeah.
we've changed, our DNA changed, and therefore we have different races, etc. And now, instead of being that one united common human that we all were back in the day, descended from one genetic precursor, we are now back up in arms against each other, when really I think we need to remember that we're actually still one species,
Yeah.
who all bleed the same, who all shit the same, who all eat the same. We might be in different places in our life, different stations, and having to deal with different things and situations, racial bias, all sorts of things like that. And whether that's imposed on us by our parents, our environment, by our governments, whatever that may be, we need to take a step back from that and remember that we're all the same person. And so that track, African Roots, means a great deal for me. I had the privilege of living in South Africa for a few years when I was younger. I
Okay.
lived out in Zululand, and I took a lot of inspiration from my time there. We've got a lot of Zulu and Xhosa chants on that track, and African drums. And yeah, at that time as well, apartheid was still very much a big thing in South
Yeah.
Africa. So the schools were segregated, but I still remember as a young man, we used to meet up with the guys, with the black guys from the neighboring township, and we'd still kick a football about, and we didn't care for the bigger picture that our parents and that the institutions were trying to
Yeah.
instill in us. At the end of the day, we were just a bunch of boys having a kick about, having a laugh together, and doing our thing. And although it was a tough time over there, I do have very fond memories of the interactions and the friendships that I've made there. And it's been said that if you've ever been to Africa, it touches your soul and it never leaves you. And I think that's very, very true as a statement. So that's a song that I really love. It's got a very different sound. And then my most recent one is a song called "Who Is She?" That is sort of based on a sort of grimy Indian infused track. And that really is about the very much, and this is where I'm talking about imagery and vivid portrayal of a life through lyrics. This is about that moment when you're up on set trying to do your thing and somebody catches your eyes in the crowd and you go off on a tangent. And this is a story about where that potentially leads after that. And I try and lure the listener into a story about how that relationship develops. And then there's a sort of false ending to it where uh, it's like your heart's broken. You've given yourself up to somebody unwittingly, with no intention of having done that. You think your world has ended, and yeah, it turns out there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel after all. So I would say those two tracks that I've done recently are
All right.
probably my favorite.
All right. So, Honestly, yeah, those were the questions that I had there. Did you wanna let the people know what you have coming up in any weeks? You said you have some battles coming up, or you said you have a battle releasing
Yeah,
on New Year's, right? Or
yeah. So there's going to be a YouTube battle on a little battle card there. Let me just check my notes. It's called Catch the Smoke Battle Card on YouTube. I think the hashtag for it is Stoners Corner. That's Stoners with a Z. So that's just a little small scale battle card. That's going to be 3 1 minute rounds up against. I'll be up against a lad I've actually clashed a couple of times before called Gasco, another very talented and lyrical individual. So I'm very much looking forward to tangling with him again. And like I talked about the sportsmanship earlier, we have a great sportsmanship. We can go at each other throat for throat, and as soon as the battle's done and dusted, nothing but love and respect for each other. So that's coming up soon. I'm going to be constantly working on tracks. I'm not doing too many tracks now. In fact, I'm probably not going to work on much more through this holiday period until we get back into the new year.
yeah,
But yeah, so I'm just trying to expand on my music and get that out to people at the minute now. So you can catch me via various platforms at the moment now. I'm on BandLab. I am at 2Complex Official. At Twitter, you can catch me, and I'm at 2Complex Official, which is official without the L. So
mm-hmm,
that's something I quite like as a battler. That's without the L.
mm-hmm.
Just didn't give me enough space to put the full words in. YouTube, I am the original 2Complex. SoundCloud, I'm 2Complex. BandCamp, I'm 2Complex, and I've just dropped this self sort of produced collection of tracks. I've called it an album,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you see behind me here. The biggest thing from Wales. If you go into
Okay.
Bandcamp and search for the biggest thing from Wales, I've got a little. I say little. It's 20 tracks of some of my own solo work, some of the work I've done with other guys from the UK, and there's a track on there I've done with a guy from Florida called Vigilante Florida as well. Aside from that, I am all over an application which is called Rapfame. Quite heavily involved with that. I do my battles on Discord. I do battles on YouTube. So if you want to find me, look for the
You're
2Complex, the original 2Complex, 2Complex Official. Yeah, I'm gonna crop up in places. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna when I post it, which it should be soon afterwards, I'm gonna have all of the links and everything in the descriptions for everybody where they can find
Okay.
you and
Cool.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where they can find you and everything like that to make sure to check out your stuff there. And thank you very much. As I said, in the new year, I'm going to be more organized, having actual scheduled shows and everything. Like right now, really, I've just been trying to build my platform, get people out and stuff, and just get connections and
That's what
decide
it's about. That's
exactly,
what it's about.
you
Growth and
know,
networking. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know
how to
it.
do it though. So I do appreciate, you coming on and everything like that and showing that support. And
I No, thank you. I'm very honoured to have been noticed by Canada. Bless up Canada, and thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me involved. Thank you for giving me my opportunity to let you know what my take is on the state of hip hop and battle culture in the UK at the moment. And I wish you nothing but success with this. And yeah, great job. I've had a look at the shows you've done so far, and I've enjoyed them. So hence, I wanted to be part of this.
thank you very much.
Not just for my own reasons, but again for the sake of the culture. I'm going to say, I think it's important we get different people from different places and different mindsets sharing those opinions and viewpoints. So
Definitely.
yeah, bless up and much love for giving me the opportunity to do that with you.
All right. So yeah, this is 2Complex. As I said, his information will be there. Make sure we check his battle on New Year's and check out the battle that he has and let's get him some support. And hey, maybe when everything opens back up and thing like that, eventually, King of the Dot will bring you over to
Oh,
Toronto there for world domination. I'll be there,
dream
and
come true.
we'll get a drink or something.
You know that absolutely.
All right, you have a
Listen,
good one. All right.
you too, everybody over there, stay safe, stay blessed, and have a happy holidays. Look after yourself, guys.
All right. Thanks very much, man.
Take care.
All right. Take care. All right. So that was 2Complex. We'll have his information. Y'all know my information. Follow me on Twitter at KingsCourtENT. Follow me on Instagram at Mumbles905. Look up DatKingShh. We'll be everywhere. DatKingShh with Mr Mumbles. YouTube. Holla at your boy. East 905. We're in the building. Y'all have a great day, man.